directed by Alex Maxon. We are talking Alien Planet. And this is a low-budget science fiction movie, clearly inspired by the previous sci-fi movie, Enemy Mine. And it's an interesting movie. It's, as I say, very low budget, but it's somewhat original in some ways. So, what is the story? So it focuses primarily on two characters from different alien species. And we learn that there's been some type of war between their two species, and both species are running out of water. And there's a kind of like a MacGuffin, this kind of elixir that can produce water, that really both of them are after. So it focuses on this kind of this male alien from one species and a female alien from another, who are ultimately, at odds, and they are both captured by a third type of alien who is kind of like this big, like brutish, feral sort of alien that holds them both prisoner, and they have to end up kind of trying to work together to get out alive and to come up with a sort of pact where they can kind of both be mutually beneficial. Doesn't always go according to plan. What will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So let's discuss what we think works with Alien Planet. So this is quite original in the fact that there's no human characters. I mean, in kind of movies that deal with science fiction, things like this, you generally have human characters for us as the audience to have that kind of emotional connection with. But here we have humanoid, they're both bipedal humanoid characters, but there's not a human to be seen. So I found that quite interesting, quite a kind of a unique kind of way of doing the story. I mean, the language is English, there's obviously clearly kind of like modern, human-made buildings and stuff, but nonetheless, there's no kind of human characters here, which I found, an interesting kind of idea. And it's something I always think, if you think to the Transformers, for example, they'll always interject human characters here. When I was young, I didn't care about the human characters. I wanted to watch the Transformers. So it's nice it's nice and kind of original to see a film which just has, a completely kind of like alien, and not even like just human looking, but completely kind of like alien looking kind of creature. So that was quite interesting and quite unique. The other thing I would say that has this movie taken me aback a little bit was how gory it was. There is a lot of kind of like blood splatter, wounds, and alien gore in this movie. It was quite surprising. But every kind of like fight scene that we have, there's like gushes of kind of like alien blood and gore and things like this, which I found is quite fun. It's quite fun. There's lots of kind of like of the quote red stuff that comes out of these kind of these characters' bodies and stuff, and there's quite a lot of kind of action within this movie. Next, I would say I kind of quite like the characters. We have primarily focus on these two characters, these two different kind of alien characters, and I mean, they're not the most in-depth, to be honest, but I did find them kind of quite likeable, and you would have kind of liked to have seen a little bit more context in regards to their kind of species perhaps, and their kind of motivations, but I still kind of quite enjoyed some of the kind of the interplay and some of the kind of like initially the kind of the insults and the kind of that sort of thing I thought was kind of quite fun. If you like kind of schlocky low budget stuff as well, I mean this movie is very low budget and it shows on screen. I mean arguably some of the stuff doesn't work, but it's still sometimes quite fun. Like we have these kind of like alien vines and stuff which are kind of like constantly kind of moving around and things like this. I mean they're not particularly like realistic looking, a little bit mechanic in the way they're moving, but I've got to say I still kind of quite enjoyed some of the kind of the sillier aspects of this kind of movie, and it's all kind of shot in like bright sunlight, which so it's kind of gives it this kind of almost a Star Trek-y feel to a certain degree. What doesn't work So let's talk about that budget again, because I feel that will be most mainstream audiences' major gripe, because it's such a low budget film. I believe it was like a crowdfunding movie, and you know, I think the actual kind of costumes of the two main characters, the kind of the makeup is good, and there's a couple of other kind of characters like the female's husband that we see is good, but we have this kind of like this third kind of beast kind of creature. It kind of looks like an extra from a Gore concert, if you know what I mean. It's kind of a little bit paper mache looking. Then we have this alien cat thing, which has quite a lot of screen time. It literally looks like what it is, a rubber hand puppet. So it's kind of fun, but at the same time, I think if you're not used to watching a low budget movie, those special effects are going to kind of stand out. I mean, it really avoids things like CGI. There's a little bit of kind of VFX in regards to the kind of the spaceships and stuff, but for the most part, it's all kind of practical makeup, which I quite enjoyed. But we have to call a spade a spade. The effects for at least half of the kind of the creatures are, you know, wonky looking. Let me just say that. I think this movie's main issue for me is probably the writing, if I'm honest, because I just don't think it was, it wasn't sort of in depth enough to me. I mean, it was this to me was quite a kind of a surfacey level story. There wasn't context given in regards to the kind of the setup. We have this kind of magical MacGuffin, this elixir that's just kind of on this planet for some reason, and it just, I don't know, this setup wasn't kind of like particularly good, and there's when it comes down to it, we have this kind of this very basic story. There's not a lot that actually kind of happens, and we have this kind of like, you know, we're meant to believe this kind of this female kind of alien and her husband are the kind of the people that are living on this particular planet. They just happen to run afoul of this other type of creature in this particular instance, even though they've clearly been living there, they've got a house and everything like that. And, you know, but in this instance, when this other guy kind of turns up, this other kind of creature happens to kind of stroll, you know, and come across them. I don't know, I didn't feel the writing was particularly kind of sophisticated, let me put it like that. So it's very much a kind of a rudimentary in regards to its script. So it feels kind of almost like it should have been like a cartoon in a way. It feels like the actual kind of like the actual script is catering to a young audience, but then we couple that with quite a lot of gore. It puts it in this odd juxtaposition where, you know, you don't have a sophisticated story, so that would maybe appeal to kids, but then they're going to be clearly kind of a little bit too adult for them because there's so much gore in this kind of film. So it ends up being this kind of like this weird space to a certain degree. So I feel that's this main issue. The script here is just not in depth enough. It's not particularly kind of sophisticated. The characters seem quite broad, even though I quite enjoyed the kind of the interplay. And they really, in regards to the actual plot development and narrative, there's not a lot to it. So it's kind of like, certainly a fun film visually, but there could have been more meat on the bones in regards to narrative, the setup. I feel that would be my main takeaway here. And like I said, the low budget will kind of put some people off. But I've got to say, this does look like it's you know, a fun film that if you don't mind B movies, you don't mind the kind of the low budget schlocky aesthetic, you can kind of like enjoy the kind of the visuals, enjoy the action, and I think to a degree enjoy the characters, even though I don't think they are particularly kind of like well realised and kind of like realistic in regards to sort of dynamics and stuff. As it stands at the moment, I'll give this one like 5 out of 10. It's kind of like you know, a film I feel this could be built upon, and kind of like maybe the right director here, I feel would work on the craft a little more and have a little bit more sophistication in sort of future projects, certainly in regards to the writing. So yeah, 5 out of 10 for me. It is kind of a fun but very simple film with very little kind of depth really. So Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.